Good.
Video is ready to go.
Perfect. Good
Awesome.
evening, everybody. And it is January 18th at 7 p.m. and I will call this meeting to order. First on the list is the adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes, omissions from administration?
Yes, Deputy Mayor, if we could have item 3.2 BDO Canada LLP be the first delegation with Classic Kennels being the second, because I see they're not joining the meeting as of yet. And also the confidential item 13.1, if we could defer that to the January 26th meeting, as we did not get the information on that item.
Sounds good to me. I see Jamie Hoover has his hand up. Councillor Hoover?
I'll move to adopt the agenda as amended.
And all those in favor? And it looks like that is carried. Thank you. Moving right along. So we will do 3.2 BDO Canada LLP first. And we are welcoming a delegation of gentlemen this evening. Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. So, my name's, I'll just do a few introductions here, I guess. My name's Alan Lister. I'm a partner with BDO. We've got Mitchell Kennedy. He's a manager here on the file. And we also got Stephen Seipkis. He's a senior on the file. So typically what we do with our audits, I mean, it's the first time we've kind of got in front of you, and unfortunately we're doing it, fortunately or unfortunately, we're doing it over the computer. Hopefully someday soon we'll do it in person. But typically what we do is we meet with you guys a couple times a year. Now, the first time is to talk about the audit, where we're at right now in the planning stage. We've done some planning and things like that. Mitch is going to go through a little bit of a document for you. I don't know if everybody got that yet or not, but just kind of outlines kind of the things that stages that we're at. We're going to talk about materiality, independence, and things of that nature. And what we do is that we'll talk, and if you got questions, jump in anytime. And it's really just kind of a first steps here for the audit and let you know kind of where we're at. And we can go from there. Does anybody have any initial questions they want to throw out there? I don't see any hands up. So I guess what we'll do is get Mitch to go through the letter, which will kind of outline a little bit of the steps that we've talked about here, and then we can take some questions afterwards, and we'll go from there. All right. Take it away, Mitch.
All right, I'm just going to attempt to share my screen here. All right, so hopefully everybody can see this. So I'm just going to run through the audit planning report for you guys here. So at any time you guys have any questions on anything I say, please feel free to interrupt me. Unfortunately, I'm going to have this screen in front of me, so I won't be able to necessarily see your hands go up. So feel free to interrupt me as I go. All right, I'm just going to start with the executive summary here. So our audit planning has finalized as at today, January 18th, 2021, as we introduced the audit planning letter with you guys. And right now we're currently scheduled to be out there around March 8th, 2021 for the year-end field work. Our significant audit risks, we have revenue recognition. This is just an inherent fraud risk. It's related to grant revenue and when it gets recognized. This is common among all municipalities. And then the other one is management override of controls. This can't be helped when you have a smaller accounting department. So this is also a very similar control among some of our municipalities here. Moving down to materiality. So our materiality is currently being calculated at 2.25% of revenue. And our planning materiality is currently set at $550,000. Our engagement objectives, our overall responsibility is to form an opinion on whether or not the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. The performance does not relieve management or those charged with governance of their responsibilities. The fraud discussion, we are not currently aware of any fraud affecting the town. reach out to us. But as of now, we are not aware of any fraud. Just going to move down to the audit timeline here. So we were there for interim at the town of Blackfalds around on December 7th, 2020. While we were there, we tested a good portion of the income statement items. We did walkthroughs to figure out what your business processes were like. And we also had some discussions with management regarding the audit. While we were there, we've found nothing incorrectly adjusted. We still have to go back at final to tackle a good portion of the balance sheet items and then just do our top-up testing. So once again, our final audit date is scheduled to be around March 8th. And our presentation is going to be around April 19th, where we'll present our findings, go over the financial statements with you guys, prepare our final report to council, and then we'll release our audit report, which will be attached to our financial statements. Going to move further down unless somebody wants to interrupt me. Significant audit risks and plan responses. So once again, we've already kind of talked about the revenue recognition and the management override of controls. Our approach to mitigate those risks for revenue recognition is quite simple. We're just going to sample the grants received in the year to ensure that they're being recorded in accordance to PSAS, which is your public sector accounting standards. And for management override of controls, what we do there is we will be testing all manual adjusting journal entries that get posted in the year using analytical procedures and vouching them to the source document. So that's how we mitigate the risks here to make sure that they're not going to be an issue throughout the file. Moving down to materiality. Materiality is considered to be material if individually or in aggregate, the impact will have an impact on the user's decision to make any kind of opinion on the financial statements. Materiality is used to help drive our sampling methodology and scoping and to help us determine whether or not any misstatements should be corrected. So to be a little bit more specific on that, if there's an error of a few dollars, materiality is $550,000, we may not necessarily make that adjustment because the error itself would not be significant to impact any of the user's decisions. Just going to move further down to our audit strategy here. So this is kind of like a flow chart from the beginning to the end. We start out with the scoping and kind of move our way down. Scoping, simply defined, as what are we testing, what are we going to be looking at, and then we identify and assess the risk. So based off of our understanding of the engagement, what are the areas of risk that we need to look out for, and what are the impact of these risks? At which point we're going to design an audit response. This is where we create tests in order to mitigate our identified risks. And then we'll obtain our audited evidence. This is where we carry out the test and we obtain the appropriate source documentation that we need in order to gain insurance over the engagement. And then we move further down to form an opinion. After the engagement is near its completed stage, we need to form an opinion on whether or not we believe the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects in accordance to PSAS. And then finally, we're going to issue our auditor report. Our opinion will be disclosed in what we call the auditor report, which is going to be one of the first pages you see attached to the financial statements. And that's kind of a flow, like very high level flow of what our audit essentially looks like from cradle to grave. And then further down, it's just our independence letter. We've been engaged to audit your guys' financial statements as at December 31st, 2020. Our auditing is done under Canadian Generally Accepted Auditing Standards, which is GAS. We are in fact independent of the town, and in determining whether or not we are independent, we look at the following. So whether or not we hold any kind of financial interest, hold a position either directly or indirectly that gives us any kind of right or responsibility to exert any kind of significant influence, whether or not we have any personal or business relationships, whether or not we have any kind of economic dependence on you guys, and provision of services in addition to the audit engagement. So these are things that we do not have, which allow us to be independent of you guys and allow us to perform the audit. And then moving further down, it's just our responsibilities. It's important for the council to understand that the responsibilities that rest with the town and its management, those that rest with the external auditor, which is us, and responsibilities of those charged with governance. Throughout the year, we'll perform timely review in accordance to PSAS. We'll go through interim financial statements and provide general comments where requested, and we will consult where necessary. We'll obviously work with management towards the delivery of financial statements, and we'll provide timely and constructive management letters when we do the report. And we will present to council any significant findings throughout our audit. It's kind of my general spiel. You guys have any questions at all? I know that was kind of a lot to take in.
Thank you very much. Any questions from council?
I don't see any hands.
Seeing none, thank you very much for the presentation.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks for your time, guys.
Yeah, and we just, like I said, we'll be meeting again with council with the final presentation as well. You know, and really what we strive for is to make sure that we're available and, you know, give you guys the information that you need to make decisions and have that clarity as well. So again, we appreciate your time and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much, Mitchell and Ellen. We appreciate the presentation and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, guys. Take care.
Have a great night.
Bye.
So moving along, I see that Jim has joined us, so we can do 3.1 Classic Kennels with Jim DeBoon.
My mic. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Jim.
Good. I can't. All I see is a bunch of dots on the bottom of my screen and an RS in the middle, so I hope that's right. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. We can hear you, Jim.
And you can see me? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for the chance to screw up your night like this. I went to the wrong invite. I went to the trial invite instead of the regular invite because I had two choices and I had a 50-50 chance. Anyways, a couple things I wanted to do was just kind of do a little report for council on us as a service and a little update on kind of where Blackfalds falls in, and then also get to the little kind of award I wanted to give you guys. So us as a service, we do 10 communities in Central Alberta, totaling about 43,000 people. Of that, about 10,000 live in Blackfalds. We, in last year, 2020, through animal control, we helped 315 animals. And this is a statistic more for us than you. Out of that, 6 of them were either too sick or too aggressive to be helped. But that means that for us, we had a 98% live outcome rate as an open admission shelter. But at the end of every year, I do my statistics for all the different towns. And the reason that this year caught my attention was when I looked at the return to owner rates for cats in Blackfalds as compared to the other communities and compared to communities at large, the number was significantly higher last year. It was low 30s in 2019, and it was 46% in 2020. And it really kind of almost caught me off guard. And I thought Blackfalds ran away with it as far as that goes. But when I finished, Penhold was almost in a statistical tie. Blackfalds did take it, but literally if one less animal went home in Blackfalds or one more went home in Penhold, they would have actually won it. So it really surprised me that both of these communities went up notably in their return to owner rate. So just to give you the numbers in Blackfalds, through the year, we helped 91 animals in Blackfalds. And of those 91, 89 had a positive outcome, which means they either went home or were adopted. We did have one dog we had to put down because it had a bad situation happen, attacked a family really badly, and they asked us to put that dog down. And then one of the cats that came in from Blackfalds was in late stage distemper and died. So outside of that, the 91, 89 all had positive outcomes. But the fact that, so except for the one dog we had to put down, all the dogs in Blackfalds went home. So it was a 98% return owner rate. And then, like I say, for all the cats we picked up, and just so you know what the numbers are, we picked up 13 dogs in Blackfalds last year and 78 cats. And I say 46% of those cats went home. And I'll just tell you that I've been doing this for, well, I'm going to be going into my 38th year here in a couple months. And there's never been, that I know of, a community in North America that hit an actual 50% return to owner rate on cats. And you guys almost did it. And when I saw that, I thought, you know what? They need to know they're doing a good job as a community, because cats are still a problem in North America. Dogs, as far as overpopulation, with a couple of exceptions, are not a problem in North America. I shouldn't say that, let me clarify. They're not a problem in most of Canada and in large parts of the United States now. But there are no places that really have a great handle on cats yet. And it's been something I've been working on since 2009, since I started doing cat bylaws. And so to go from the national averages, which historically run between 1% and 3% return to owner on cats in open admission shelters, to get to a number like 46% is, well, it was kind of unthinkable even 8 or 10 years ago. So I did a plaque up, and and I've actually been doing more research, and I still have found nothing to prove me wrong. I still think Blackfalds is the most pet caring community in North America, based on everything I can find and all the places I've called, and even the databases I've been trying to mine through. Because there's no central database for this kind of information. You literally have to find out good organizations, call them, and find out what their numbers are. And that's what I've been doing. And so just to give you an example, and just so you know, in a community, the way I scored this, if 100% of dogs went home and 100% of cats went home, the score would be 200. So for Blackfalds, because of that one dog we had to put down because it's a taxi one, we had 98% of dogs and we had 46% of cats, which means the score for Blackfalds was 144 on that scale. Penhold was 142, Eckville was 130, City of Lacombe was 130, so it tied Eckville, and then Bentley was 120, and the city that claims to have the highest return to owner rate in North America was Calgary, and it was at 116. And then to put it in perspective, Red Deer was at 91.5%, or a score of 91.5, I should say. So that to me shows kind of the level of concern for the citizens of Blackfalds for their pets, because the reality is anyone's animal can get out. Everyone has a mistake, but it's, do they come and get their animals? And as far as I can see, Blackfalds, just by a hair, is the most pet caring community in North America, and that's why I decided to get that plaque made and give it to Blackfalds. So that's my little report.
Thank you,
just
Mr.
showing council the plaque here. You did drop it off for us last week. We got a picture with Mayor Poole holding the plaque. We will post that on our website here in the next day or so. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you guys. Thanks for the pleasure. You know, I want to say one more thing. To get a community where we're moving towards in Blackfalds, I mean, it takes hard work on our part, but it also takes a lot of cooperation with municipal enforcement and even the RCMP, because together we create an atmosphere in the community where people are inspired to kind of do better and do better for their animals and do better for the community. And so it's been a pleasure working with municipal enforcement of Blackfalds and the RCMP. It's just been a really wonderful environment to work in. And I just really can't say enough good things about them.
Thank you so much, Mr. DeBoon. And I know on behalf of Blackfalds, we all say thank you very much for the plaque. I do see that Mayor Poole has his hand up. Mayor Poole.
Thank you. Jim, I just wanted to echo Deputy Mayor Stende's appreciation of the work that you're doing within our community. I've also been in office as a councillor or mayor for 23 years, and to have a plaque such as you're presenting to our town is amazing, and we very much appreciate it. I think a lot of it does stem from the fact that your organization, your group is such a caring group that takes animals and they make sure that they stay safe. So I'd like to thank you very much for the hard work that you've been doing within our community. It's
my honor, and we appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. DeBoon, and thank you, Mayor Poole. I think that all of council echoes your sentiments. Moving right along, we have no public hearings or business arising from the minutes, so we will move into business. First up, 6.1, request for direction on the seniors facility lease.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll be presenting this item. The Chimo Club welcomes residents 50 plus to join the weekly activities in the Blackfalds Community Center. And the current Chimo Club lease agreement expired this past December 31st. With the current pandemic restrictions continuing, the town of Blackfalds and Chimo Club have agreed to an amendment with a 24-month extension to the current lease. During the January 28, 2020 regular council meeting, executive members Jeanette Edwards, Daryl Calder presented council list of concerns that they had regarding the senior space. I believe the council will remember that meeting. They're invited to attend the February 5th, 2020 Blackfalds Recreation, Culture and Parks Board meeting to discuss their concerns that had been brought up to the previous council meeting. A subcommittee was created in order for the Chimo Club and the town of Blackfalds to get together and discuss the concerns and create some objectives in order to make coexisting easier. The town of Blackfalds, specifically Kara Croce, FCSS volunteer programmer, and Blackfalds councillor Will Taylor have been working closely with the Chimo Club in building relationships so the municipality can better support the group for future planning opportunities and growth. The proposed extension was discussed with the Chimo Club executive members in December, who were in support of the 24-month extension of the current lease. On January 6, 2021, the Chimo Club lease agreement extension was brought forth to the Recreation, Culture and Parks Board meeting. No concerns regarding the extension was voiced, and the board voted to carry the motion unanimously. Therefore, the administrative recommendation is that the Standing Committee of Council direct administration to extend the existing Chimo Club lease agreement for additional 24-month period. And attached to the request for direction is a copy of the lease agreement.
Thank you, CO Thompson. And are there any questions from council? Mayor Poole?
If there are no questions, I'm prepared to move that the Standing Committee of Council direct administration to extend the existing Chimo Club lease agreement for an additional 24-month period.
Wonderful. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that is carried. And we can move right along to 6.2, Safety Code Services Draft Request for Proposal.
Thank you. So I'll be presenting the Safety Code Service Draft Request for Proposal tonight to Council. So we've been working with IJD Inspection Services since 2008, and recently the agreement was signed with IJD for an extension of the contract expiring on May 1st of 2021. So as per Council's current direction, any RFPs that may impact service levels of our residents are to be brought forward to Standing Committee for input and feedback prior to the RFP being finalized. So what we're asking tonight is for a Standing Committee to approve the draft RFP. We've completed the task, including review of similar size municipal safety code services RFPs of this nature, and updating the document to include all relevant information as required by the safety codes of Council. The expected work includes providing safety code services as needed for items including but not limited to review and consultation with town staff on safety code practices, procedures, and advice regarding regulatory compliance, building permit review and related inspections, review acceptance and issuance of electrical, plumbing, and heating and related safety codes permits, as well as inspections as regulated under the Alberta Building Code, and assistance with all annual safety audits. So if the draft RFP is approved tonight, we'll be placing it on the Alberta Purchasing Codes website, or the Alberta Purchasing Connection website, as well as our website itself. So attached is the draft RFP, and administrative recommendation is that the Standing Committee of Council move to recommend that administration releases the Safety Code Services RFP on Alberta Purchasing Connection, the town's website, and by invitation to current service providers within this region. And with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Thank you, Director. Any questions or comments from Council? Councillor Schwab, you have your hand up.
No, I don't. I don't know what's going on with my computer.
No worries. Councillor Hoover.
Yes, thank you. Now, I'm not sure the relevance of my question, but as we move forward with our environmental plan, I would imagine that there'll be some requirements in that plan that involve environmental inspections. Do we have the ability to outsource that to the same contractor in this case, or will that be a completely separate type of inspection?
That'd be a separate scope of work, Councillor Hoover. That being said, they do have a number of services that they can offer, so it would be depending on what it was involved. For instance, if it was an unauthorized sewer RV dump in the backyard, IJD would be inspecting that. But if it was something related to a different type of spill or something outside of the safety codes, then it would be probably through an environmental engineer or the like.
Okay, so does this RFP allow for those additional services? Should they be necessary through the policies?
Yes, Councillor Hoover.
Thank you.
Councillor Olfert.
Yeah, I was just reading the motion, and should that not go to council to approve to send to administration?
I would turn that over to the CAO for some comment, but I know we've approved a lot of these draft RFPs at the standing committee level.
Yeah, Councillor or Deputy Mayor sent through to Councillor. Yeah, so the direction is for the standing committee to direct administration to extend that lease. That's a normal process for this type of situation.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, when I read this RFP, I believe this is basically what we put out every time we're looking for somebody to deal with the building codes and the safety codes. Is there any big changes to this that would be different than what we've done in the past?
Councillor Taylor, through the chair, no, it's essentially the same RFP as we issued back in 2012 as well as 2008. The biggest difference is it's to our new template as best as we could manage formatting it.
Thank you, Director. Any further questions from council? I saw CO Thompson first, and then Councillor Olfert.
I just wanted to provide some clarification. I was looking at the wrong document. So normally we bring RFPs or requests for proposals to the standing committee to vet, and then once we've gone through that process, we release those RFPs, and when those come back, then we bring them to council for approval. That's been our standing process.
Thank you, Councillor Olfert.
Okay, well, I'm prepared to move that standing committee of council move to recommend that administration release the Safety Code Services RFP on Alberta Purchasing Connection, town's website, and by invitation to current service providers within the region.
Any debate on that motion? Mayor Poole?
Just a point of order. With Councillor Schwab's hand permanently raised, how are we accepting her vote?
I can ask Councillor Schwab each time to verbally give her consent or assent.
Is it permanently raised?
I don't see your hand raised at all, Councillor Schwab.
It just went down.
Okay. I think we just continue as per, and if we note any issues further with Councillor Schwab's hand being raised, I will address it then. So we have a motion on the table, and seeing no debate on it, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have the Alberta Civil Society Fund Letter of Support.
Thank you. So the new Civil Society Fund has been established to support an effective and sustainable recovery of the civil society sector. This fund provides $20 million to expand civil society's capacity to address social problems for Albertans. $7 million of that $20 million is available for the 2020-21 years. The objective of this program is to support civil society's recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. Civil society includes nonprofit and voluntary organizations, registered charities, informal groups or movements pursuing shared interests or values, and private sector organizations and individuals pursuing social good. Civil society plays a critical role in the well-being of Albertans and contributes significantly to Alberta's economy. This program funding will help build even more effective civil society organizations by leveraging the existing strengths of the sector and assist in the overall recovery of Alberta. CSF funding is a one-time only, with the application deadline being January 20th. Activities advanced through this program need to be completed within the 24-month period of endorsement of an agreement. Imagine, which is Citizens Collaborating for Health, is a formed society made up of a diverse group of citizens from all walks of life, most of whom have had some interaction with the healthcare system and are working together to influence decision-making at all levels and to become recognized partners in improving our province's healthcare system. Imagine Citizens have been established since 2015 and utilize their knowledge and experiences to assist helping improve the healthcare system. More information on this group's activity can be sourced at imaginecitizens.ca. Anna Marie Fuchs, who is the chairperson of our physicians recruitment committee, serves on that group. Imagine Citizens is making application under the CSF program and are requesting support from the town of Blackfalds in the form of a letter of endorsement for the proposal. If Imagine Citizens is successful in receiving funding for their proposed Alberta Community Health Ambassador Program, the town of Blackfalds will have an ample opportunity to discuss whether to formally partner with Imagine Citizens or act strictly in a support capacity, and to advise the Blackfalds Health Professional Attraction and Retention Committee in deliberating about how they might partner with the organization. At the most recent physician recruitment meeting held January 13th, the committee endorsed a letter of support for the application for Imagine Citizens, and there is one of the attachments is a draft letter of support from the committee. The application summary is also included as an attachment and provides an overview of the project activity objectives. Therefore, the administrative recommendation is that the Standing Committee of Council direct administration to develop and provide a letter of support from the municipality for Imagine Citizens in support of their application under the Civil Society Fund program. Draft letter has also been attached to this item for Council's consideration.
Thank you, CEO Thompson. Any questions or comments from Council? Mayor Poole, I believe I saw your hand first.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I'm going to read the motion, but I'm wondering if I could be allowed to make one statement regarding the committee after the motion has been decided?
Sure. Could we allow Councillor Appel to ask her question first?
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor. I just had one question in regards to the letter, as I noticed it is dated today. Can I ask, are these letters, and this might be a better question directly for the mayor, or for Mayor Poole, I'm sorry. Are these letters signed electronically by staff, or are they signed physically?
Through the,
Yes, Mayor Poole, go ahead.
thank you. Through the chair, letters that are written by the by council are signed, are usually signed in person. This has not been brought before me at this point. Because we haven't approved the letter to move forward yet. This is just a draft, but it will end up being signed by myself, and it will be put onto the office of the mayor letterhead as it is.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, I am in support of this letter. I thought it was very well written, professional, and concise. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pell. Any other questions from, Councillor Olfert?
Just on that note of the letter, it's dated 2020. It should be 2021.
Thank you for that minor adjustment. Any further questions? Seeing none, Mayor Poole?
Thank you. I'd like to move that the Standing Committee of Council direct administration to develop and provide a letter of support from the municipality for Imagine citizens in support of their application under the Civil Society Fund program.
Thank you, Mayor Poole. Any debate on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Oh, Councillor Taylor?
No, I was just.
Perfect, thank you. And that is carried. Next up, we have 6.4, council meeting, virtual meeting discussion.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Would it be all right just for me to add one piece of information on the previous issue?
Absolutely.
Sorry for interrupting like this. I just wanted to inform council that we have replaced the deputy chair with manager Sue Bourne, and she's replacing EDO officer Jennifer Hartick. We're excited about the change, and we feel that a lot of synergy will be brought between the FCSS and this committee as we move forward.
Thank you very much, Mayor Poole, and I echo those sentiments as well, sitting on that board. So next up, we have 6.4, virtual meeting discussion about council meetings.
I can begin the discussion, Deputy Mayor. I was requested to add this item to have some discussion with the Standing Committee tonight. That was prior to the polling of council by Mayor Poole to determine whether or not we would move to a remote meeting format, which we have. I think it would be good just to find out if there was any issues in going with this format tonight. It appears that it's gone rather seamless for me. I know Councillor Olfert did have some issues, but that was with his equipment itself. So we had talked about Zoom. As you know, we are on Microsoft Teams. I think it's performing quite well. So I guess I did have a quick discussion, Deputy Mayor, whether to leave this item on or not. I think it serves as an opportunity for council to provide any additional input to determine how long that they want to trial this or report back, say in a month, to see if there's any improvements that we want to make, including moving to a different software, those sorts of things.
Thank you, CEO Thompson. I see Councillor Appel's hand.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this being brought forward to the SCC meeting this evening when I asked that it be brought forward, I realized that it would hinder our abilities to live stream the meeting. So while it wouldn't technically be live streamed, it could be recorded by us and then uploaded to YouTube. This allows ourselves, so council, mayor, and staff, to view everyone on the video and to avoid us speaking over each other and to avoid any of the audio issues that we tend to have in chambers. While we have all of this equipment already, all of councillors have computers as well as staff members. There's no additional costs to do this. Also, it's far easier for our residents to view the videos afterwards, being able to hear everyone and also who is actually speaking. To clarify this request, in order to follow the current Government of Alberta's public health measures, there is one that states working from home is mandatory unless the employer requires a physical presence for operational effectiveness. I realize that I am not physically, or my physical presence is not required for the operational effectiveness of the Civic Center. I don't know how all of the councillors feel about that, but that is my personal feelings. I realize that I like to adjust the service stat, but that probably doesn't count. I am very grateful to still be able to work during this pandemic, and I understand the privilege that is offered to me to be able to work from home. In this regard, I feel that not following the rules laid out is disrespectful to those who have lost their jobs. And if these rules are being imposed by others and we must force their imposition, then I request it respectful that we follow them. One other point of note, I realize that it's probably not a secret to many that Deputy Mayor Stendy and myself have been on opposite sides of these, or opposite ends, sorry, we're on the same side, but opposite ends of the COVID restrictions and the discussions therefore that have followed within the past 10 or 11 months. This aside, we were both easily able to agree on the best step being forward, and yet it seems that there was quite a bit of opposition when this was brought forward. So I just want to ensure that, I more want to understand if there is hesitation as to what that would be to not follow the provincial guidelines. And because, you know, there are many public and private businesses in North America that have been able to do this over the last 10 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Appel. And Mayor Poole, I did see your hand up. Do you still have a question?
More of a comment. During the first motion to approve the agenda, it did freeze and I was unable to actually register my vote. And I'm wondering if we could develop a procedure, if that happens, to make sure that all of council is aware of what they should do to ensure all motions are received and voted on.
I can defer to CO Thompson for that, I think. I did say carried, not carried unanimously, as I did assume that we may have that issue, but I'm not sure if CO Thompson feels differently on this matter.
No, that works. Well, you know, definitely we realized there would probably be some challenges tonight, so we can work on those with IT. So we've been capturing some of those notes, and the next meeting, we hope that it will be seamless.
Thank you, CO Thompson. And I see Councillor Taylor's hand.
Yes. So just on the comment about there was quite a bit of opposition when the request went out. I didn't see a lot of opposition, so I'm not too sure what we're referring to. I mean, for me personally, I don't care whether we meet in person or not. I mean, if it's the law that we need to be a part, I think it's appropriate. But I just didn't see a lot of opposition. I didn't know where it was coming from.
Councillor Hoover.
Yes, well, I was in support of this, but I do understand that there are frequent technical problems with that. So my question maybe would be brought to administration. Have we looked at the costs, if any, that would be associated to also trying Zoom as an alternative? I know I've been on both platforms. I haven't hosted any meetings, but I do find that most of the meetings that I have attended, larger groups, has been through Zoom. So it might be that there's more capability or stability to that. what are our options when it comes to trying that? It may only be a month that we do this, so we should consider that as soon as possible.
Yes, Zoom is about $600 a year, so it's not cost prohibitive. The one thing about Zoom is that you can live stream, so that is one of the benefits from that. So I guess that's what I was getting at in my preamble, that if we want to, we do have Microsoft Teams set up. We can give that a try for a few meetings and see if we can work out the bugs. And if council feels that we need to go to another platform, then we can definitely look at that if that's the will of council.
Thank you, CAO Thompson. Councillor Staub? Councillor Staub?
I'm here now. So I had some glitchiness at the beginning of the meeting tonight with my internet, so I don't know if all my votes were registered properly or not. But I do feel, because this has been a mandatory provincial outline for us to work from home if we can, that I think this is the right way to go until the government lifts restrictions.
Thank you. Councillor Olfert?
Yeah, I have to agree with Mayor Poole. I've been watching some of the votes go on, and there's quite a delay, if not even an absent one. So, and I've been hearing Councillor Hoover be quite glitchy, and even though he's not even got his video on, so we'll have to check those things out.
Thank you, Mayor Poole.
So my comment is the ability of administration to meet the requirement to record our votes. Are you able to ascertain who was opposed to the votes, if any, when they occur, or do you need a different process to occur? Secondly, I would also echo one of the councillors when they asked about Zoom. I think it's a superior platform. It will allow live streaming, and I think that it would most probably eliminate many of the glitches that are occurring. But I'm not opposed to trying this for a couple of meetings.
Thank you, Mayor Poole. Councillor Appel?
Could we get administration to answer my question, please?
Oh, yes.
Yes, Deputy Mayor Sendy, through to Mayor Poole, we could look at physical voting. Everybody placing their hands up. I mean, that's what we've done previous when we've had some members remote in. Maybe that would be a fallback until it's such time that we can remedy some of the shortcomings.
Councillor Appel, but first, before you ask your question, I'm just going to remind everyone at the beginning of this meeting that I did say that I cannot actually physically see your videos or your hands. So if you are physically holding your hand up in front of your face, I won't see it, which is why I did ask that you use the little hand emoji by your name at the beginning of the meeting. Going forward, if that is an issue, I will figure something out on my end so that I can see your screens. Councillor Appel.
Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor. I would like to thank the CAO for bringing forward the pricing for Zoom. I think that $600 compared to what we were looking at late last year in regards to revised video equipment to be able to live stream our meetings from chambers. I think that $600 is by far the more cost-effective option. As well, Deputy Mayor, I just had a thought that I would like to share with you, that if someone is opposed, that perhaps when you call out for those opposed, they could actually unmute themselves and physically say that they are opposed. That way it's very clear. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for that suggestion. I will do that going forward. And just a comment from myself as well. I do think that Zoom is a much more effective platform. I think that we can all agree, having for the past 11 months attended conferences, webinars, and learning sessions with very, very minimal glitches or issues. Personally, I would rather go with Zoom instead of Teams, which we have seen time and again have issues. I don't see personally the point of continuing on the Teams platform if we are aware that Zoom will be a better platform for council. And I see Councillor Appel's hand.
Sorry, my bad. I just realized I hadn't removed it, so it's down now.
Thank you. Councillor Hoover?
Yes, on that note, I would actually be prepared to make a motion of that we obtain a license for Zoom. I fully believe that it is a better platform, and it's something that we could use even after this, should we want to have images of everyone during the live stream.
Okay, so hearing that motion, any debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? And I do see everyone's hands. Anyone opposed?
You don't see my hand. I'm opposed.
So that is carried. Moving right along, we will go to 6.5, the municipal index comparison, January 2020. Mayor Poole?
Thank you. The next two items on the agenda are being brought forward by myself. You'll notice that they are in a different format than we normally receive, and that is because I wish to do this without involving or taking up the time of administration to assist in the preparation. The first item is the Government of Alberta, the Government of Alberta Municipal Index Comparison. The Government of Alberta has published an evaluation tool for municipalities. The dashboard attachment, the dashboard link is supplied below. Government of Alberta is calling this a municipal dashboard, and some factors are publicized for all communities in Alberta. My question to council is, do we wish to delve deeper into this dashboard to understand what each of the factors explains and how we may compare comparative communities? This is something that Government of Alberta is encouraging citizens to do. However, there has not been a clear indication how these figures were arrived at, or if they provide information that is valuable to municipalities throughout Alberta. As an aside, I also understand that administration is working due to requirements by the Government of Alberta on this issue as well. I do not have any preference as to how council should proceed, but I feel it is important for council to consider whether they wish to ask administration to provide an analysis. I have two requests. I have two requests for direction.
Any questions or comments from council? Councillor Taylor.
I just have a question. Through CAPE, this looks like something that we would have worked on years ago, and I think maybe that the government has taken over. I'm just wondering if anybody on CAPE would have any feedback if they've looked at this, or where any substance of what they might have had to do with it.
So I'm the person who's sitting on CAPE, and due to COVID the past year, CAPE has not been super active other than to hold the occasional webinar. Mayor Poole might have more information than I do. He has his hand up.
I was just going to say, I don't have any information about any of the other communities that have been talking about this. I've been asked a question from a citizen regarding the municipal index comparison. They're finding it difficult to move into and to utilize. And basically, in communication, I realized going into it, it provides information for our community, but it does not provide comparative information. Now, administration has been having to work on that. With your permission, I'd like to ask CEO Thompson to maybe explain what administration has been doing to meet the requirements of the government of Alberta?
CO Thompson?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Cindy, through to Mayor Poole. Justin and I have been discussing this over the last while. I'll refer to Director DeBresser to provide a little bit of insight into some of this data that's available. If you wouldn't mind, please.
Director?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Excellent. So yeah, you might be familiar with the indicator graphs that used to come out in a publication a few years ago. What they've done now is put it all on the website, and then you can select your comparable communities, and it will give you some data that comes out of that. We have looked into what can come out of that, and it is a little bit different, and it takes a little bit more effort to kind of get all that information based on our comparable communities and kind of tally it up and kind of put it back into the report that you used to have. So it is available. It is there on the website. It will be a little bit of work to put it together and kind of get it into a format that you really want to compare, apples to apples. There is some cool things in there as well. It does give you how your basis of communities compare, whether they're a good comparison, whether that's like a medium comparison, or whether it's a very bad comparison. You might notice that our list of 13 comparable communities, I did run them the other day, and I would say only 5 out of 13 are a good match for us. So at a minimum, I would say we need to refine our comparable communities to really get a good understanding on that. But once again, I just reiterate that the information is there. We can extract it and present it in a way that may be helpful for the community.
Thank you, Director DeBresser. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, I noticed one of the things that stands out is the population of 11,656. There are some pretty, somehow they're collecting some information. They clearly state that it's from 2016. Some is from 2018, some is from 2019. So somehow it's being updated, and there's got to be a feed. I know that Donna Allard was on, when I was on the board with CAPE, they were working on this dashboard, and it was a big thing for the government of Alberta. I think one of the things when I was talking about how the municipalities can update and have current data in there. So I hope if there's grant money to be available that we get it on 11,656, that they honor that. But it'd be interesting to have somebody come and actually explain how this works and where it comes from. I think a good base and how we can keep it up, because if it's something we can do to keep it up and keep our numbers up, especially with doing census and things like that, there could be a lot of benefits.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Olfert.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with the comments made so far. Looking at that population, that's from 2019. We didn't even do a census in 2019. So where is that number coming from? Be interesting to see where they're getting this data, because it could be valuable as long as we knew how they were getting it and make sure it's accurate.
Thank you, Councillor Olfert. Any further questions? Seeing none, we do have a request for direction in front of us. Mayor Poole. Mayor Poole?
Sorry, I muted myself instead of unmuting. I move that council request administration to provide an analysis of the municipal indicators for Blackfalds, as well as provide a list of communities that we can use as for comparative purposes, and present these findings to council in a comprehensive manner that allows council to time to question and evaluate.
Thank you. Debate on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And I do see everyone's hand. That is carried unanimously. Mayor Poole, I believe you're up next as well.
Thank you. So for this next item, I have a little bit of a preamble before we get into it. And to provide background to this document, I would like to explain that this was prepared almost a year ago for presentation to council in preparation for this year's budget. I deferred presenting this when the COVID-19 crisis overtook our council and administration. While the crisis is not over, this document is prepared for council's consideration because the questions and comments continue to recur, and even if council chooses not to act, this can serve as a background that may be brought back at a future date. In addition to the following presentation, I would like to add some comments about the relevance based on the feedback from council during our most recent budget deliberations. I feel that council should review our current two-day workshop approach to the budget and instead consider substituting this meeting for a special council meeting, which may last over several days to deal with the budget preparation and would be live streamed. The reason for this is that I've noticed that many of the budget items presented over the last workshop were passed over, only to find out when the item came before council in an open meeting there were questions. The latest example of this is a utility rate bylaw. This was brought to council during the workshop in the same format that was presented to council last week. There was hardly even a comment made about it, which would lead administration to believe that council understood and was accepting of the premises it was based on. While it is important to discuss alternatives during the rate bylaw amendment, administration could have had some notice that this item was raising questions before it was incorporated into the budget. The second item was the tax rate that was brought forward when the budget was brought forward for approval. The 1.5 increase was never objected to during this budget workshop, even though it was an important premise that the budget was based on. No councillor voiced the fact that they could not support this increase until the budget discussion. As well, during the December budget, one item was brought forward as a reason for not passing it, and that was the census, which amounted to only 0.09 of the entire budget. With these thoughts in mind, I provide the following document for consideration. Over the past 2 years, questions and requests regarding the budget process have been brought forward by members of council. I feel council should consider this subject in a manner that will allow administration to provide input and, if requested, implement changes. Depending on the scope of this request, administration and council may require considerable time to evaluate the consequences of any changes and decide to either continue with the existing council budget practices or implement an alternative approach. It should be understood that I have no agenda and no preset agenda in this presentation other than to bring to council the subject in order that they may consider if changes are necessary. The questions that include but may not be limited to: what information should council receive from administration regarding the budget? Currently, our policy reads that administration will increase the annual budget 1% per year, but this amount will be reviewed annually. With this direction, it is the responsibility of administration to bring this forward for council consideration at a pre-budget meeting. From this pre-budget meeting, departments through their director work together to prepare a budget based on current service levels that administration feels they have reviewed and agreed to by council throughout the year. Adjustments are made during this administrative budget development process to enable administration to meet council's requested goal. This practice, which council has endorsed, is very efficient, but may create an experience that prevents council from being involved in the total discussion. When the proposed budget is brought before council, administration has already decided what will and will not be included. During the budgetary workshop, councillors review that budget based on the experience and concerns they have and provide feedback on what they feel should be increased or decreased, as well as make decisions on items that the budget team has brought forward as possible inclusions. Because they have not been part of the administrative discussion of the budget, council is unaware of the original request from that each department provided. Is there a better way that council can direct administration to prevent this budget? During our current operational budget process, does our current operational budget process accurately reflect council's priorities? For example, is community services more important than infrastructure and services? And to dig deeper, how important is the All-Star Park operation compared to street cleaning? Does council feel that we need to have discussion based on a more quantifiable form that reviews each service and the percentage of the budget? We recognize that currently this percentage is provided in a comprehensive graph at the beginning of the budget, but council does not have the time to relate this to what we feel are council's current priorities. In addition, additional citizen oversight and support from recreation and culture, the FCS, economic development and library committees is ongoing, and unlike our infrastructure services and planning and corporate services departments have. The overriding question is, does council feel we should take a more active role in the operating budget as a method of implementing council priorities? On the other hand, we include in our budget discussion our 10-year capital plan and review of reserves and offsite levies. I feel that council has a good description of the projects that are anticipated by administration in the upcoming year and for the next 10 years. This presentation made at budget time is complete and provides a comprehensive summary of projects that are being requested during the upcoming year. While some unanticipated projects may occur, most of them are based on concrete data that our town is very conscientious about attaining to explain the need and timing for projects to be moved forward. One area that may require greater consideration is how and when it comes to our capital budget, do we identify and decide if new proposed projects should be brought back for review based on changing circumstances? While administration is respectful of any requests from council to review projects, this review only occurs on an ad hoc basis. The budget processes that we could consider in the future, I have on this presentation on pages 5 through 11 alternative budget examples. Questions moving forward. Is council satisfied with how we have decided budgets in the past? Does council wish to investigate different budgetary processes? And if so, develop a method for council to do so, including the following factors, as well as any that might be suggested during this discussion period. We recognize that the cost of our proposed investigation needs to include staff support time, and paperwork. Councillor time, I assume that any meetings during this process would be in committee form and therefore would not qualify for council remuneration. The above information is intended to provide background for the following request. I don't feel any ownership for any of the following alternatives, but felt it was important for council to consider them while we have time to begin implementation before the next formal budget process starts. I have 3 alternatives that council can read. That ends my presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Poole. Any questions from council? And I see Councillor Schwab.
Thanks for bringing this up, Mayor Poole. I appreciate it. So for the budget, I don't find getting a binder a week before budget before the budget deliberations is great. I would rather see it 2 weeks ahead of time because it gives us more time to look at it. I really do enjoy our Quesica program. It's very thorough. I do think, though, that we should be looking at other means of budgets and how, what other sources are out there for how we could do budgeting. I mean, Councillor Olfert and I had attended a meeting of training a couple years ago, and I would still like to look into that to see if maybe that would be a better option. But I do right now like a Quesica. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Schwab. Councillor Hoover.
Yes, thank you. Thank you to the mayor for the work you put into this. Now, I do understand one of your points, particularly having to do with I guess you could call it change of heart, or people questioning aspects of the budget. I know for the utility bylaw, I didn't bring up my concerns until it came up, the rates came up in the bylaw. And I can say from my perspective, that had a lot to do with the fact that we're in unusual times with the pandemic, and it seems like our needs and our priorities are under more scrutiny and more need to consider on a regular basis. So I'm not sure that we have a significant problem with the way that we're doing the budget planning now. But we don't know what we don't know, and moving forward, we may have a need to look at this in more detail as a council in terms of planning, look at it more frequently, and in terms of how we feel this is going to look and how it might impact our community if we're facing restrictions and challenges like we have this past year with the pandemic. And so again, I just wanted to qualify that my concerns were because of the pandemic and seeing it continue even if several weeks longer than I would have expected it, and how it got worse. So if we continue, my perspective, we continue under these restrictions and challenges into 2021, I think we need to look at an alternative way to do our budget planning that gives us more time to consider how it's impacted by these restrictions. If we go back to some semblance of normalcy, I think that what we're doing currently works quite well. It's one of those situations that we don't know what the future holds.
Thank you, Councillor Hoover. Councillor Appel.
Thank you so much. I do agree with Councillor Hoover, as there are often times that more questions and more thoughts come forward as these projects are moving ahead throughout the year, which is why we discuss them on multiple occasions. And we're not making one decision the first time we're hearing about it. That's why bylaws typically come back for 3 readings plus public hearings, et cetera, et cetera. This year, I do feel that quite a bit changed between the beginning of October and January in regards to the utility rate bylaw specifically, as Councillor Hoover mentioned. I did miss out when Councillor Schwab and Olfert were able to take the training on zero-based budgeting and different budgeting systems. And I do feel that that would be training that might be beneficial. I know it would be beneficial for myself, and I would assume that it would also be beneficial for other councillors for us to have a better understanding of exactly how that works and how the prioritizing works. And then just one other question, because I do also really appreciate the access that we have to the Questica. A thought that would be helpful for the next year's budget would be to allow councillors to somehow get that so we can have VPNs to view that information at home, as well, as it's not always possible for us to be at the Civic Center during business hours. And sometimes it's a little awkward being there by yourself in the evenings when there's not big meetings going on. So I know that I would feel more comfortable having that access from home. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Appel. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, well, one of the things is the budget process reflects a lot of council's decisions. Our decisions that we make form the budget. Yet, will I agree with everything that everybody has? Probably not. But when we come together to do a budget, it's really the hardest decision is to say, hey, we're going to pass this budget. But I feel that we have to own our decisions. One of the decisions is, you can't ask, hey, I want to put a library on and then say, no, I don't want to raise, I don't want this cost. You can't eat your cake and have it too. And I feel like when we make decisions, we have to own them. It's the same way when we make plans for the future so that we're going to make our community better, so nobody's going to big hit in taxes. We've made those plans. We've talked about those plans in long-term planning, and it's all a good exercise. I know early on, I probably struggled a lot more with budgets than what I do today. But I know that we have to own our decisions. Sometimes it feels uncomfortable, but I feel like sometimes that's it. It's like you know, I've listened to councillors say, yeah, I want this and I want that. And then when it comes to making decisions, say, no, I don't want to pass a budget. So that's the way I feel about that.
Councillor Olfert.
From my viewpoint, I've noticed that actually every year we've done a budget has been slightly different than the year before. So we're always about change, always about trying to do it a little bit better, a little different, something to just make it easier for everybody to understand. So I'm wholeheartedly in favor of, you know, looking at something different. Like Councillor Schwab mentioned, that course we took on zero-based budgeting was an interesting way of doing a budget. Would it work in every situation? No. But it's always worth looking to see how we can be better, more efficient, more transparent, and just do it easier.
Thank you, Councillor Olfert. Councillor Schwab.
I also have to echo Councillor Hoover as well. When we did do our final budget deliberations in December, that's when Premier Kenney also announced that we were going into lockdown, where people were losing their jobs again for another month or two, maybe even longer. So it wasn't all based on just the census. It was based on the community members in our town, because I know a lot of them aren't working right now, and hopefully they can get back to work. At that time, I made a decision because it's a pandemic and people and their livelihoods it's just not a great time for a lot of people in our town.
Thank you, Councillor Schwab. Mayor Poole.
I noticed there are still some other hands up. Councillor Hoover, if he wants to go before me, I would defer until his comments are made.
Councillor Hoover, I apologize. I do not see your hand. Is it up?
No, it's not. I did leave it on a little too longer than I needed to, but no, I have no comment.
I thought that's what had happened. Okay, Mayor Poole.
Thank you. So my reason for bringing this forward is to bring back alternative methods of budgeting. Zero-based budgeting is one of them. However, there are at least 5 different methods that budget can be prepared. And my hope would be that if we're looking at one, we consider all of them and then choose whether or not we wish to either take one of them and utilize it, use parts of one, or look at alternative methods of moving the budget forward in the upcoming year. I think it's important that if we're going to do this, that council direct administration to bring it back in a timely manner in order that we can have that discussion and then give direction to administration before they begin their next budget preparation cycle.
Councillor Hoover.
Yes, thank you. Now, I do support the idea that Mayor Poole is suggesting that we look at alternatives. I don't know that we are prepared now to make those decisions. I think that we need to have a better discussion. I'm not sure this is something that is going to be as effective over Zoom or Teams as it would be when we are able to sit in a room and understand this. I do support it. I think just my perspective is that we bring this back in several weeks or a couple of months. And only because of the restriction.
Mayor Poole.
I appreciate all the comments that are being made. There are three alternatives that are in there. Again, whichever motion, if any, that council wishes to move forward with, I think the main thing is that we wish to, my purpose for bringing this forward is to find out council's will, not to necessarily have any alternative that I wish to move forward with.
Thank you, Councillor Appel.
Thank you. To CEO Thompson through the chair. CEO, do you feel that our staff has time to put together a report for this in order to bring back to council? I know that property tax decisions are made in April, so I just wanted to see if you felt there was sufficient time for this.
Well, definitely we will have to put some work into this. It's not something we can bring back in the next meeting or two. So I will have discussion with administration here in the upcoming short period of time and develop a process and report back to council what that could look like. I guess in looking at this, one of the things that I guess I'm wondering about is we went through the municipal sustainability plan, and we didn't see this come up as an item. I realize things have changed significantly for everybody over the last number of months. But administration would be pleased to put some effort and some work into this and bring it back and have some meaningful discussion with council.
Thank you, CEO Thompson. And before we move along, I have a couple of comments as well. I concur that it would be fantastic if the next council had Questica available in some form or another in their homes. It is a fantastic resource. And the fact that most of council isn't available to access it without going in physically can be a bit of a detriment to some not being able to access the same information that others are. As well, I agree with Councillor Schwab that the binders are not being they're not being put in our hands early enough. A week is not very much to go through a 3-inch, 3-ring binder full of information and be able to make complete sense of it and have our questions ready to go, which I believe is part of the problem when we come to the decision making around budget and after the fact items coming forward, like the utility bill did. As well, I do agree with Councillor Hoover that the pandemic threw all councils, not just ours, for a loop, and councils left, right, and center across Alberta are having to change course and make decisions that maybe they weren't prepared to make prior to this. And as much as I agree in a normal year with Councillor Taylor that we make a decision and we stand behind it, in a pandemic, sometimes things have to change course. You aren't given a choice. You have to make decisions for your residents, and sometimes those aren't the decisions that you made initially. So those are my comments. We do have a request for direction in front of us with 3 alternative motions, and I will look to council to see what motion, if any, they're willing to make. Council?
Could I make just one comment?
Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, my history on the budget was that even though we don't get the binders right away, typically every board we're on deals with a section of the budget. So if it was the economic development, that portion of the budget would have been on that committee. If it was on rec, that would have been on that committee, and that they would discuss some of that input to the budget before it got there. So it's not like we just get a binder. Collectively, we don't get all the information, but typically on the board that we're on, if I'm not understand, we do get sections of that, and then we trust other councillors to bring questions on what they've dealt with. But
so we do have a request for direction. Councillor Who?
Yeah, looking at these 3 options and based on what I said before, I do have difficulty making a decision that's going to change the course of what we have been doing. But I do think that we would benefit from knowing more information about what alternatives are available to us. So to me, alternative 2 seems to be sufficient for me, which is request that administration provide a training session for council regarding the pros and cons of different budgetary approaches, no further action contemplated. That would be my motion, unless someone else wants to have comments or lean toward another.
Thank you, Councillor Hoover. Any debate on that motion? Councillor Olfert?
Could we maybe leave that last sentence off? No further action contemplated. That just kind of hamstrings us, because if we do get this training session and we find that something really resonates and works really well, and then we're kind of stuck saying we can't because we said no.
Thank you, Councillor Olfert. Councillor Hoover, are you okay with that?
I don't feel that it hamstrings us. I think that we're just giving direction. I think administration, our direction administration is just simply we want to have some training, and we're not asking them to investigate an alternative necessary budget, which I think the only way we could is to be able to actually compare results. So I mean, what this motion is saying that we want some training. I think at that point, if we feel like there needs to be more, we could always put it back as a, unless administration can tell me, does this motion hamstring us? I don't feel it does.
CO Thompson?
No, I don't believe it does. I think it's fine as is.
Thank you. Mayor Poole?
My question to council is that, are we looking at administration providing information on all budgetary processes, or are we limiting them to zero to the training that has been provided to Councillor Schwab and Olfert?
Councillor Hoover, care to elaborate since it is your motion?
I'm not going to pretend I know what the alternatives out there. I'm happy to leave that up to the discretion of administration.
Any further debate on that motion? Mayor Poole?
My preference would be for, if there is no opinion from council, that they utilize all the styles that have been provided and give a very short summary on each of them, the merits and the problems with each of them, because I'm sure that administration and our corporate services department has ample expertise in this subject, and it would be easier for them to prepare all 5 and comparatively, but not ask them to provide a real detailed explanation on any one.
Thank you, Mayor Poole. Any further comments from council on that? Seeing none, we have a motion on the table. All those in favor? And I do believe we have consensus. Carried unanimously. So we can move right along into our information items. And I do think that we can do these maybe one at a time, just so if council members have any questions, they can ask them as we go. So the first one is 8.1, 2021 Municipal Census Program. CO Thompson, did you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Stendy. I've asked Justin to prepare this report. He's in a position to speak to it.
Thank you, Director DeBresser.
Unmute your mic.
Oh, hey, I just had a big spiel and you just missed it. So
I bet it was good. I bet it was good.
yeah, excellent, excellent. I was just saying that apparently we don't need to do a census because the province has already estimated our population over 11,000. But anyway, we still got it in the budget, and as a result, we hit a bit of a roadblock. The city of Airdrie was the centre of census software. And as a result of the determination of a population regulation repeal, they won't be supporting that software for a period of time. As a result, we're proposing, or we want your feedback on doing a modified census for this year. We have sourced some software that can generate the codes that are needed for residents to put in through a website to get the information. So what we're proposing is a 2-question quick and easy census to get our population. So we're pretty much going to ask how many people are in your dwelling and the age of those people in the dwelling. So yeah, like we've previously mentioned, our rough estimates would be close to that 11,000 based on new development and new houses. We have reached out to the province. As a result, we haven't got a response back from them at the moment, whether we do have to declare a census day, whether we have to follow all the rules and regulations within that manual that was attached to your agenda package. So we do have the $30,000 identified. I think if we do a modified census with a quick and easy online, we should come in well under that budget. So our direction that we're seeking from Council tonight is whether we should go ahead with the 2-question census. And with that, I'll open up for any questions.
Thank you, Director. Any questions or comments from Council? Mayor Poole, I believe I saw your hand up.
My hand was up. It was asking how effective would the online process be as opposed to the online process that was utilized with the program from Airdrie.
Yes, so I can't speak to the program that Airdrie had, like the full census that you did in 2018. I wasn't a part of that. However, I have been a part of the 1-question census that a community up north did. And they used Airdrie software at a significant cost for that 1 question. So we are able to do that, the 2 questions. We do have checks and balances in place to make sure the house that is registered for that PIN number is the house that will submit that answer. Once again, that link will be embedded in our website, so it'll be quick, easily accessible, and we'll promote it as a 5-minute census and try and get that 100% of the houses captured.
Thank you. Any further questions from Council? I do believe I saw, oh, that's Mayor Poole again. Yeah. Any other questions from Council?
I have a subsequent.
Absolutely, go ahead.
So last time we had difficulty having the online. Would we then anticipate sending people out to do the in-person if the online was not utilized?
Correct. Yeah. So we will form a team of people. We're not sure the quantities per divisions. The 2018 census was in 8 different sections of the town. We are going to establish the numbers of the new houses in those sections, and then we're hoping to get 80% online, and then have a team of remunerators go door to door, door hangers. So there will be some physical cost, some human cost on that as well. But the anticipation is to hit it on the social medias and get everyone to complete online if we promote it as a 5-minute census.
Thank you. Councillor Spab.
Would the age categories be enough for us to support all of our schools in the community if they're looking at expanding their schools, or do we need to have a check for each school for the kids that are attending which ones?
Good question. So in looking at other census, the school question hasn't, in the few that I have seen, hasn't come up on census. Depends on what council's after and whether that information, whether the province will take that information. At the moment, we're still unsure of how much of that they will take off us. And that's why we're proposing a slim down, but I'm open to, if you want the school question in there, we can make it a 3-question census or 4-question.
I feel that with all of our elementary schools exploding, that it's a question we need to ask, because our community is still young and we're still growing. So I think that knowing if they're attending Wolf Creek Catholic School or maybe homeschooling, I think that would be good questions to ask.
Councillor Appel.
Thank you. I am in favor of doing a short 2-question census at a significant cost savings than what was originally discussed during budget time. For a couple of reasons. One, we'll get more participation if it is advertised as a quick 5-minute 2-question survey, or potentially 3 questions, but short and sweet. As well, I think that this format, this very, very concise format, will help our residents, or help eliminate any confusion that we feel might happen between a community census and the federal census that we know is coming down the pipe this spring. So I am in favor of this short format.
Thank you, Councillor Appel. Councillor Taylor.
Unmute yourself, Will.
Thank you. I agree with the 2-question survey. I think it's quick and to the point, the information that we'd probably need up front. And but I'd also ask that to consider is using this as a promotion or a jump start for the federal census, letting people know, hey, we're doing a quick census, but it's really important for you to get your federal census in because it's very significant. They take so long to get their data, but it has a long life for our community. So I think we'll use it to create interest for the federal census.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Hoover.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I guess I'm not. Okay. So I hope Councillor Schwab is okay. It sounded like she was getting attacked by wolves, so I'm concerned for her safety. That might just be my speakers. That aside, I do feel that we're looking for basic information on the census. Federal census is much more detailed, and it'll happen soon afterwards. So in the long run, I think that census is what most funding is going to be based on, anyways. From my perspective, I think our goal is just to get a sense of what's happening with our population, and keeping it brief is my preference as well.
Thank you, Councillor Hoover. Any further questions? Seeing none, I do actually just have a couple of comments. In the background, it says that the census will be completed this spring. Do we have a time frame on that yet? And the reason I ask is because council made it very clear that if we were to proceed with the municipal census, it needed to be finished before the federal one starts in May.
Thank you for that question, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I've noted, it all depends on what the province comes back with. The guidelines state that April 1st to June 30th is the census period. However, now, I was just checking if I'm unmuted. We having a kickoff meeting tomorrow morning based on the information that we get back tonight. But our plans was mid-March to mid-April to have it completed, like the advertising period, and then wrap it up before that May 1st. So we're still on track with that, as long as the province indicates that we don't have to go from the set out dates in their guidelines.
Okay, and just subsequent to that, under the census timeframe, it does state that municipalities are not required to submit a request for approval to the minister if they choose to conduct a census during the 2 optimal time periods, one of which is March 1st to May 31st. So are we looking at those as dates potentially? And I'm just curious as to why we reached out to the ministry if this states that we don't need to.
Yeah, sorry, I must have missed that point. But yeah, the point that I got focused on was that April 1st to June 30th. So we'll definitely clarify that as well, and their response may be not needed.
You bet. So just for your clarification, it is the 3rd paragraph under the orange census time frame, page 43.
Okay, I'll look it up.
You bet.
Thanks.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none, can we get an acceptance for information? Councillor Appel.
Thank you. I would like to move to report, or sorry, I move to accept this report for information.
Thank you. Debate? All in favor? And I see everyone's hands. That is carried unanimously. Moving on to 8.2, the Wolf Creek Public School Budget and District Priorities Input Invitation. I'm not sure if we need to speak to this. Everybody has seen the package and the survey outlined as well. Are there any questions in regards to that? And I do not see any. Can we get a motion to accept for information? Councillor Olford.
Typically, don't we just collect all the information items as one motion?
Typically we do, but there is only 3, and I thought that there might be questions, and I was correct. There was quite a few questions on the first one, so I thought, seeing as they're quite short and there's only 3 of them, we might do them separately.
Okay, I'll move to accept as information.
Thank you. Debate? All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Next up, we have the PRL Public Regional Library Board Talk from November 12th, 2020. Any questions from council on that? Seeing none, can I get a motion for acceptance? Councillor Schwab?
I'll move to accept as information.
Thank you. Debate on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? And it looks like that one is unanimously carried as well. And if there is nothing for the good of the council, I do believe that we can adjourn this meeting at 8:45 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
So stop recording.